AI will hit the job market like a tsunami.
76% of the workers in India are very worried.
No job is needed. The AI will be able to do everything.
How do we ethically address the potential for job displacement caused by AI and automation?
I have a conflict with this question. Why? Because will it take jobs? How many jobs? This and that. But my question is, why are we concentrating on it? It will take some jobs, but it will bring new jobs as well. Now my question is, are you even ready for those new jobs?
Biggest ethical concerns with deepfakes.
तो हिंदी में एक कहावत है, बंदर के हाथ में तलवार दे देना. Every other, whether it's a news reporter, it's a celebrity, it's a politician, they're just, deepfake softwares today are free on the internet. And even if they are not free, 1,500 rupees per month, which is not a big deal if I have to ruin someone's life.
Is there any way, Saakshar, give me an honest answer that we can combat the spread of misinformation, protect the integrity of information?
The honest answer is not to concentrate upon the fact that can we stop it or not, because we can't stop it. But
how is AI being used in cybercrime, and what are the ethical challenges associated with this?
These generative AI models, whether it's Google Bard, it's ChatGPT, if they are making our life simpler, they can make life simpler for cyber criminals as well. Voice cloning and deepfakes, these are the two main gangsters at the moment.
Biggest threat from AI.
Biggest threat from AI.
A historical figure you would like to have a conversation about AI.
About AI, I think social media is full of comments, right? India में हमें पता नहीं, सबको ज्ञान देना बहुत अच्छा लगता है. People don't realize that if a person like Elon Musk, respected person, he's known as the godfather of AI. He was the one, he left Google recently, some time back, and he said that we are creating a monster.
The real question is, when will we draft an artificial intelligence bill of rights? What will that consist of? And who will get to decide that?
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue.
Hello and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. Between Us is about stories, and the most important story is the one we tell ourselves. Today's story is about AI. Today's story is about Metaverse. Today's story is about rapidly growing technologies. And at the same time, it's about the ethics. Where do we draw the line when it comes to the rapidly growing technologies? And I have an amazing guest to talk about AI, ethics, the moral compass surrounding it. Our guest, Saakshar Duggal, is a lawyer who specializes in cybercrime. He's also a budding actor, writer, public speaker. Saakshar, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Santosh.
So, Saakshar, we begin with the first segment of our podcast, and we call it What Matters. I'd like to begin with AI and human values. How can we ensure that AI systems align with and uphold human values and rights?
Well, at the end of the day, we have to know one thing, which is that if AI is not here to, to replace you, it is here to complement you, but terms and conditions, if we are able to regulate it properly. And by regulation, I don't just mean laws, regulating as an individual as well. I mean, today you have ChatGPT, right? For example, you have ChatGPT and it is in your hands. There is no law which is guiding you. It is in your hands how you are actually using it, misusing it, or is ChatGPT misleading you or empowering you? So what I'm trying to say is, as if you want it to complement you, your ethics should be in place. And again, if I talk about today, there is no law. But as a human being, everyone knows what are human values, right? These morality, integrity, it's ingrained within human beings. So when you're interacting with technologies like AI, you should have these ethics in mind. But unfortunately, the human nature is such that laws are required, because if we would have just gone for ethics, then the society would have been completely different. Today, for example, no one tries to, just suddenly murder anyone. As human beings, we are what? We are animals, right? We're just sophisticated animals. If there was no law, murder might have been a very normal thing. But there is a law, there is a punishment, and we work on pain and pleasure. That's why we are forced to live, in dignity and in peace. Therefore, regulations are also required. But in regulations, you should have a hint of, ethics. If I talk about a recent example, European Union came up with their own new AI law, which is guided by ethics. And the beautiful part about that law is that They are not here to in too much regulation or too much leeway to AI. They're creating a balance that AI should prosper, companies should prosper, but at the same time, there has to be a line that has to be defined where regulations come in place. So again, that delicate balance is required.
Where does India stand today?
In India, definitely, we are working upon a few things. A couple of weeks back, our minister also, he gave the statement that yes, we since there are a lot of issues these days with respect to content creators and AI, so they are also coming up with this new law, which is not really there in the public domain at the moment, but they are working on it. But yes, I personally feel we are still somewhere or the other we are lagging behind. I can understand there are 10 number of things happening in the country, but this has to be given certain priority.
You know why specifically asked from an Indian perspective is many of us are creators. And my biggest worry has always been I try to create original content. And I have very recently seen many of my content being rehashed, retold by people. I feel AI would be a great blessing on that front in terms of being able to identify who the content belongs to. Do you agree to that?
I agree, but somewhere or the other, I always believe in one principle, which is that AI, again, coming back to the basics, things which are not in our hands. For example, AI, the growth of AI technology, the laws in place, people copying our content. These three things are not in our hands. But one thing is definitely in our hands, which is that I always believe if you're fast enough to create things, then the copying, people who want to copy you can also, not match your speed. If in today's time, for example, if someone wants to copy my content, I can leverage AI. As in, for example, I can leverage ChatGPT. All those monotonous things which are time consuming for me, or I feel that like a simple example is if there is a huge, and I do that, if there is a huge 6 hours lecture of Harvard on law and technology, I want to hear that, but I don't have the time, 6 hours. So I give it to ChatGPT. I say that please give me the relevant points. It gives me the relevant points. Now, based upon those relevant points, I make a decision whether this is actually I have to spend 6 hours or not. And 90% of the cases, I just go with the summary, because not everything should demand your attention. It doesn't require as well, right? So coming back to the point, use AI, yes, definitely, but speed is a non-negotiable factor.
So true. What role do you think cultural and societal differences play in shaping these values?
Major difference, because when we talk about laws, different laws are there. The issue can be same, right? Criminal matters, murder. We have seen, right, for a certain kind of an illegal activity, in one state there is a state punishment. In somewhere else, it might be a jail punishment. Somewhere it might be just a fine. So it depends upon the cultural values and thinking of that society. So laws differ, but yes, since AI is a global problem, we need global principles in place, so that at least, obviously, that hint of cultural difference will be there in different laws, but the core principles should be intact.
Right? Are there any philosophical theories or thinkers that have influenced your views on AI ethics?
Definitely, yes. One major, I would say I always look after him, look at him, Elon Musk, for sure. Why? Because he was the one who was, in fact, shouting here and there before ChatGPT also that AI can be the most dangerous. It is a suicide mission.
There is no love lost between him and AI. So
yeah. So I like his views. Why? Because yes, at one place he is working on technology.
Yeah.
He's not someone who's not in the technological space.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, he is very much aware of what kind of things can happen in the future.
I have seen technology evolve over the past decade or multiple decades. One thing which I've always believed is technology is an enabler. It's not the end solution or the end. So I think as long as we remember that, we should be good.
That's true. And again, what you're talking is these sare basics hain, but we tend to forget these basics.
Yeah. How can those perspectives, which we spoke about, help us navigate the ethical challenges posed by AI?
I think one thing we have to understand is that always, I personally believe like that, whenever you are making any law or regulations in place, the experts in that field are the best people to tell you the loopholes, the opportunities and everything. So if we are trying to make something on AI, whether it's just basic rules and regulations, not a law, basic rules and regulations, understanding where are these guys coming from. I mean, today social media is full of comments, right? India में हमें पता नहीं, सबको ज्ञान देना बहुत अच्छा लगता है. India ही नहीं, पूरे world में human beings are bound, ये भाई ज्ञान देते हैं. People don't realize that if a person like Elon Musk, or in fact there is this respected person, he's known as the godfather of AI. He was the one, he left Google recently, some time back, and he said that we are creating a monster. So if these guys are speaking such things, I mean, you have to pay heed to it. There has to be something, because they are very much more knowledgeable, much more experienced than all of us in that area. So if they are indicating us to certain points, I think we should definitely pay attention to those points, and that can be definitely a game changer.
Because I feel that some of the movies we have seen decades back on Hollywood about the power of technology, they all seem to be coming true now, from robots to everything. Let me circle back and ask you this question. How do we define AI ethics in the context of rapidly evolving technologies? Part 2 of that question is, what are the key philosophical principles that should guide the development and deployment of AI?
Well, number one is understanding the importance. Just imagine in your real life, if ethics are gone, what happens? Just imagine that. I mean, things like trust, honesty, these are not laws, these are ethics, right? Yeah. Ethical principles that we live upon. And if there are no ethics, I mean, if you can't trust anyone, you're doomed. So understanding the fact that if your real life cannot work without ethics, your online world will not. Number one. Number two, I personally feel ethics is a double-edged sword. Why? Because on one way, we are saying that yes, ethics should be there. Ethics like trust, integrity, morality. But on the other hand, there are a number of misuses for it. For example, we talked about how we are, leading in a world where we can't trust anyone. So if at one place we are saying we should have trust on the internet, or trust in that, trust with AI, on the other hand, we are saying don't trust. So this is a very gray area that is there. And I think it depends upon case to case, whether because I don't advocate this fact that ethics you can blindly trust AI and ethics. When you merge them together, you can't blindly trust them. Why? Because number one, complete ethicness is not, it's not possible on the internet. Number one. Number two, if even AI can make errors, if today AI and you're combining them, AI is making an error, there is always a possibility of an error. So you should respect ethics. I personally believe respect ethics on the internet, and that respecting can only be done at an individual level and by laws. And second, but again, at the same time, have an open mind that yes, this ethics, this line of ethics can be, taken for granted, whether by an individual or by a technology itself. So that, the delicate balance of being being open-minded and adhering to those ethics, that's where, the game lies.
What are the most challenging ethical dilemmas posed by AI technologies?
I think a couple of them. Number one is transparency. What do I mean by transparency? Basically, if today I'm using ChatGPT or anything, why I'm quoting ChatGPT? Because people resonate with ChatGPT these days. So even if it's any AI software, any AI model, see, you are giving your data to it, right? You are sharing your data. But what happens behind the scenes? Is it transparent enough to show you that, okay, we take your data, we store it here, this is the duration, this is the purpose? That transparency has to be there. Number one. Number two is understanding the biasness factor. And now, obviously, people are working upon it. But yes, biasness is one thing where, see, AI right now, it lacks emotions, right? That emotional part, that morality, ethics part. So it can get biased based upon data. It goes hardcore on data. For example, some time back, I think 2 years back, Amazon had this software, AI software, which they used for hiring people. Therein, suddenly, one fine day, they realized that again and again, so the job of this AI model was to they had a number of resumes. Right. So just filter them out and give us top 10 or top 15 and we'll do the job. They suddenly realized this trend that again and again it was recommending male contestants more than females. And 80% of them were females, 70 to 80%, and 20 and 30% were males. So when they dig deeper, they realized, coincidentally, because AI works on data, right? The last 10 years data showed that males were getting hired more than females. So AI understood that males are more competent than females. That biasness came in. So that manipulated the whole data as well as the results. Therefore, biasness also becomes very important.
And it's really interesting, Saakshar, because that's the exact opposite reason why we want to have technology to remove biases, right? So, yeah. Let's talk about legalities of AI and emerging technologies. When it comes to existing regulations, what are the current legal frameworks governing AI and emerging technologies?
Well, if I talk about AI and emerging technology, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of things. The mother legislation in India is IT Act for all these things. Yes, there are indirect ways you can go through it. For example, misrepresentation. If I talk about deepfakes, you can use the clauses of misrepresentation, identity theft, tarnishing someone's reputation. But there are no direct regulations. In law, there is this saying that whenever you have a direct regulation, which is specifying, like for example, if I have certain rules and regulations for deepfake, it becomes easier as a lawyer. It becomes easier as a judge also to refer to them. Because indirect ways there is more effort to it, and you don't get direct evidences for that, as a matter of fact. So there are not much laws in place. The most recent examples that the best that we have at the moment is the IT Act, IT rules, which governs all these social media providers like Twitter, Meta, Facebook, and stuff. Apart from these IT rules, now there are prominent organizations like Niti Aayog. They come up with their own rules and regulations about blockchain. They have done that on IoT as well. But again, these are good. These are good
Bits
proactive
and pieces,
bits and
actually.
pieces. We need massive actions. Fortunately, the current recent example is the DPDP Act, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which actually I feel is the need of the hour. Why? Because India as a country has been unfortunately a data careless country. We don't realize the value of data, and I think it's not just India, it is human nature. We talk about European Union. Before their own data protection law, GDPR, they were not data conscious. Now they are, after 5 to 6 years down the line. So I think the same change can happen in India as well.
And we tend to just, sometimes I wonder, like, as I'm moving to a new city and I had signed up with first time around Magic Bricks, and the result was what 150 brokers already got my number. So you just realize that there is no ethical, there are no ethics out there. They just simply, and I don't think they even ask your permission before they distribute data.
Consent. And that is where, all these things, consent, transparency, duration, purpose of data, these things are alien concepts in our country. But that is where this law is coming in place, so that it can at least empower and educate people about this.
We spoke about the current limited frameworks, legal frameworks. How effective are these regulations actually in addressing ethical concerns associated with AI?
If I talk about the current regulations that we have, they are very much effective, no doubt on that. It all depends upon how you're approaching them. And I'll be very much honest. For example, if today I have a problem, right? I have, let's say, an online financial fraud has taken place and I want my money back. There are provisions in law which can get your money back. But where's the catch? The catch is, how much time does it take to you to get to the right people? Number one. Number two, are they right people? I mean, with due respect to everyone, being right doesn't mean you have to be just a lawyer. I mean, every lawyer has its own specialization. If today you ask me, can you do some taxation law? I will say, no, I am not the right person to do so, but my friend XYZ does that. So every person has their own core competencies. If you're getting a lawyer, make sure that core competency is there. He's dealing in cyber issues or IP, whatever it is. And third thing is, you have to take proactive actions. I mean, a lot of times we have seen there is a huge discrepancy between lawyers and clients. Lawyers are not, their job is to do the work. But if there are certain things which they require support from the client as well. And obviously, nitty-gritty, something like payment issues are somewhere here and there. And considering our legal system, it takes time to get dates. So if this combination is there, you have to act quickly, proactively at the right time. That's where things would come in place. But yeah, if you talk about regulations, how effective they are effective. If I talk about the IT space specifically.
So taking this forward, Saakshar, case studies. Any legal cases that highlight the complexities of AI ethics and law? And what lessons can we learn from these cases about the future of AI regulation?
There are a lot of cases. I'll tell you. Okay, one of the cases. So there is this two students, girlfriend boyfriend, typical case in our North India, and in one of the this thing. So after they have a breakup, and we've seen things like now. The catch is that before AI age, what was it? It was they used to break up if someone was extremely toxic or bitter. They used to make a fake profile of that person. They used to, do things, send messages here and there, abuse people. That was still okay. Now, what happened in this case? In this case, the girl was a little tech savvy, and she realized that this guy has, not treated me properly, and he's not done. I'll teach him a lesson. So what did she do was, obviously being the boyfriend, she had a lot of material, pictures, videos and all. Now she took the pictures and videos and she made a deepfake. Now my audience would think that she would have made a pornographic deepfake and everything. No, she did not. She was smart enough. What she did was, she took a video of his ex-boyfriend and he was just normally sitting, and he was talking. But the catch is, he was abusing his school principals, his college, these things, his parents, his cousins, his friends, blah, 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 blah. And number one, that was a paid deepfake. She used paid deepfake software. So that was pretty much realistic. People could not have imagined that this is a deepfake video. Why? Because we resonate deepfakes with celebrities.
Yes.
We don't understand that this can happen at the ground level also. And unfortunately, in that case, this guy, he had a lot of aspirations to be here, to study. He had to leave the country. Why? Because his reputation went for six. Because in his college groups, in his Facebook community, his Instagram, everywhere this video was there. He had to leave the country so that he can have a fresh start. And if this is a prominent example where there are a lot of questions that we have to ask ourselves. Number one, as I said, people have free access to these technologies. It's not something that we had this, वो कहते हैं ना हिंदी में कि सही हाथों में power. We have seen Spider-Man, like with great powers comes great responsibility. Now, great powers are there, but there's no responsibility.
Or accountability for that.
Yeah, no accountability. No laws are not there. But even if I say, let's say, if I have a magic wand, I can bring excellent laws within a day. For example, there is a huge difference between getting a law and executing it. And in execution also, it requires a lot of mindset shift as well. Today we are seeing people, and if I talk about the ground level, Jamtara, you've all heard about Jamtara, right? Cybercrime village. It became an inspiration for all other villages, right? What is the core reason why today, people in those villages are opting for cybercrime? Two core reasons. Number one, they see quick money. Number two, which is an even bigger reason, they don't understand and they're not able to differentiate what's right, what's wrong. They don't think cybercrime is wrong. They don't think if you interact with them, they are very much oblivious to that fact, and they are like, I have interacted with them out of curiosity, and they are like, sir, हम phone use करते हैं, दूसरा भी phone use करता है, हमने तो बस झूठ बोला, रियल लाइफ में झूठ बोलने के तो कोई सजा नहीं थी, हमने ऑनलाइन झूठ बोल के क्या बुरा कर दिया. And that was a huge moment for me, realizing the fact that this is how, education plays a pivotal role. If you're not educated, things can go haywire.
Impact on employment, right? We talk about job displacement. How do we ethically address the potential for job displacement caused by AI and automation?
Well, in fact, I would like to, I have a conflict with this question. Why? Because I understand this is the most famous question with respect to AI. Will it take jobs? How many jobs? This and that. But my question is, why are we concentrating on it? Okay, this might sound a bit controversial. Okay, boss, this is a very important question. But I have something to share, which is that, see, as I said, AI, it's not black and white, it's gray. If it's gray, this means what? This means it will impact every single industry in a positive or negative manner. When I talk about negative manner, it will take some jobs. But it will bring new jobs as well. Now my question is, are you even ready for those new jobs? We don't realize this, right? We never even ask ourselves this question. We only debate about this. See, if AI has to wipe out an industry, it will do it without even your will. It will wipe out. But if it will also bring something new.
Yes.
That's the rule. But are you ready? Because if you're not ready, then it doesn't matter. This conversation is of no point.
So what should we do?
See, I live with this philosophy of balance. What balance? Yes, understand that your industry will be impacted. But again, be aware what is being impacted. What are the things that will go and what are the things that are coming up. If you're aware of those, your GK is intact. And if your GK is intact, you know something is coming up. If I talk about entrepreneurship, right? All these startups that we see, okay, they're, let's say Zomato, Swiggy. Today we think that, okay, it's quite normal. But at one point, these guys, they saw a lacuna in the society, right? That it's better to make people's lives convenient. They have to go to restaurants and order. And sometimes it takes 2 hours to call. So there's this lacuna. We can fill that gap. How was this possible? Because they did their market research properly.
Right.
If you are able to do your research, how is AI impacting your industry, sooner or later, you will start to identify patterns which are between the lines. That's where magic happens.
What policies or frameworks can support workers transitioning to new roles in an AI-driven economy?
Number one is for sure, capacity building programs are a must, because a lot of industries, they are not acquainted with AI. Again, because mindset is that we are not from the tech industry, we should not know what is AI. I mean, some time back, I was talking to this gentleman who's in the construction space. And there he was quite acquainted with technologies like 3D printing and stuff. But in majority, people are not bothered in that industry. But the fact of the matter is, why? Because they are not exposed to it. If capacity building programs are there, you are getting exposed, at least you start to think in that direction. Number one. Number two, start, I personally feel, irrespective of whatever work you're doing as an entrepreneur, you should challenge your team to actually think in that direction.
Yes.
How can you use this new technology? But again, maintaining certain ethical standards, because it's our tendency to rely upon these technologies completely, which is also bad. Again, that balance things comes up.
True. How can you use AI to create new job opportunities and maybe industries?
Industry for sure. We have this prominent example, Nvidia, the company, right? It is one of the biggest companies now in the world in terms of valuation. Why? Because this guy, sometime back when there was no AI, he realized this pattern that yes, chips will be required. I want to be that person, that mediator. I'm not the end product, I'm the mediator. And it's always the mediator who gains the most out of all these situations. So understanding that, yes, and he has now created a huge industry. This is becoming a different industry altogether.
Yes,
Chips required for
absolutely.
AI applications.
Yeah.
Now with respect to students and every working professionals, how can they look for this? Again, your GK should be intact, number one. Number two, you should, again, all these things, innovative thinking, problem solving, we have heard these terms, but I think these terms are abused. People don't realize that what is the importance of it. When I say problem solving, it's not your there's OMR sheet that you are doing in colleges. No, problem solving is knowing what is happening right now, knowing what's the problem, knowing what are the solutions. Now when you are acquainted with all these things, then using your brains, how can you combine them? Because in life, it's not 1 + 1 2, it's 1 + 1 11. That is innovation.
Ek aur ek 11. All right. Let's get to privacy and surveillance. Surveillance is an interesting conversation to have. What are the ethical concerns surrounding data privacy and AI?
There are, number one, we don't pay attention to it. Number two, there are lots and lots of concerns. For example, data privacy as a topic. I mean, sometime back, ChatGPT 4.0 came in, right? 2 months back, I guess. Now, ChatGPT 4.0, the interesting part was that, I don't know if you've seen the demo videos or not.
Yes.
It's the next version. It can talk to you like a friend,
Yes.
right? Scarlett Johansson, the famous Hollywood actress who plays Black Widow in Marvel movies, she sued OpenAI. Why? Because in ChatGPT 4.0, there are different options of voices. One of the voices was Scarlett Johansson's voice, which she used in one of her movies. So that voice was taken without her permission. So she sued OpenAI. Now this was a prominent case, but these kind of different cases are bound to happen. There was, in fact, with this regard, I have another example, and this is interrelated to all these copyright matters that we have with respect to AI. So I go to different colleges, I give different capacity building talks on AI and legalities, different what is the future and all. Now in one of the colleges, I must have went and I got a LinkedIn message 3 to 4 months back that, sir, I'm Mr. XYZ and you gave a talk at my college a year back. I want to talk to you, it's very urgent. And he was constantly messaging me. I was like, okay, it's very urgent. I had a word with him. He was like, sir, my problem is I have created a book, authored a book. I was like, okay, I've launched it on Amazon. I was like, very good. What's the problem? He said, I have been sued by 3 publishing companies. I said, why? He said, sir, that's my problem. I only took all the content from ChatGPT. Why are they suing me? So, and he was what? He is second year of college.
Huh.
So obviously, you can't expect maturity at that level.
Huh.
And he was not so tech savvy to understand these things. And when I dig deeper, I realized that he had actually just verbatim copied everything without even changing a single word. And that content belonged to some other books which were published by these XYZ publishing houses. So what I'm trying to say here is that these things are there. You're blindly trusting on these technologies, not realizing that there are a lot of privacy concerns to it. Data privacy is just seeping in everywhere. And with things like generative AI, it generates content. But from where? From data from which it is being trained on. That data comes from the internet. And internet has a lot of published articles, authored books and whatnot.
It's tricky. And there are some specific words which ChatGPT always throws up. Tapestry is one of them. How can individuals and organizations protect their privacy in an increasingly AI-driven world?
Number one is realizing the importance, for sure. Number two is looking as to how it can impact your industry. In fact, you won't believe all the big entrepreneurs that we see today, the founders of these big companies, they are not, there has to be something, right? That all of them are just, leveraging AI now. Why? Because they realize that, yes, this is the future, number one. Number two, the need is today.
Yes.
We have to leverage it. You can't ignore it. And
actually, it's the present, not even the future.
It is the present. And you don't have an option but to embrace it. If you're not embracing it, and if you think that AI will stop for you, no, it will not. It is here to stay. It is here to change things. And I always give this basic logic that today we are in an AI race. World's biggest companies are coming up with their own AI models. You just name it. Amazon, Facebook, their Meta, and OpenAI now.
Yeah.
Right? They are in a race now. One comes up with a model, the other tries to compete with it. And if the whole money is going there, wherever money and business is going, it has to stay. Right?
Yeah.
It is not going anywhere.
I have to bring in AI into my podcasting game. That's the only way I can move ahead. How do we balance the benefits of surveillance with the need to protect individual freedoms and rights?
That's a very good question. And with this regard, the new European Union's law comes in play. I think it's an epitome of this, this statement. Why? Because there, right now, before European Union, different countries had come up with the law, but they were a little extremist. I mean, somewhere you would find they're giving too much leeway to AI. Somewhere you would find they're being overly strict on the restrictions. You can't be overly strict. If you say that we can be overly strict, then you are restricting AI innovation, which, let me tell you, if you're restricting AI innovation too much, then somewhere or the other, malpractices are bound to happen because people will not stop working in this regard because they know a lot of money is there now involved. So coming back to the question, European Union, they have struck a balance between growth and restricting AI.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they are this, obviously any law that is now coming up, it's not the final draft. It's just a good attempt, but we need auditing again and again. We need different amendments to refine that law. But at least the principle is solid, which is it works on different levels. What do I mean by levels? So based upon sensitivity, if you are in the medical fraternity, defense, banking, now these sectors are sensitive in nature.
Yeah.
They require more compliances. There they are very much strict. So when we talk about AI, the more AI you're using and the more it's impacting people and data, the stricter they are. The lesser you're using, the lesser they are. But no one is, they don't say that don't comply. It's just the numbers of compliance differ. For some, it might be 40. For some, it might be 10. But that's still flexible, right? It's not a one shoe fit all situation. Because that creates a problem. So I think that balance, I think different countries, different companies, and can have inspiration in that regard, that they are trying to create a balance, which is really important in today's times.
Well, I think all of us are struggling internally with whether we want AI to work for us. And on the other hand, we are also wanting to, hold back. It's an interesting times we are living in. All right, Saakshar, something which is being talked about a lot, deepfakes. And from political leaders to, I think students to everyone is falling prey to it. And I like to call this manipulation and misinformation. What are the ethical implications of deepfakes in media and communication? And this is a global phenomenon.
And number one is obviously when we talk about, there are a lot of data privacy, consent is there. See, at the end of the day, why is a deepfake made? A deepfake is made to tarnish someone's reputation. And the ethical question is, who has given the right to do that? Number one. Number two, okay, no one has given you the right. What are, are there any laws in place? Are there any policies in place? And that's where UK is facing this huge problem where now they're working upon certain regulations to come up with deepfakes, because this deepfake problem is just increasing. It is impacting. Recently, a news reporter in UK, her deepfake is circulating online. And if someone says we can stop deepfake, how will you stop deepfake? I mean, you can't stop things on internet unless and until you have a state level the restriction on every single thing. That's a different ballgame altogether.
Then the whole idea of having free flowing information goes
for six. So understanding the fact, this is a huge, I personally feel this is the first problem that we have, that at least certain regulations should be in place so that people can't, because the technology is there to your use or misuse. So you can't stop technology, but you can at least curb with respect to regulations. Because once you bring regulations, if you have strong punishments, then people will think twice. And digital, again, now this is one, digital media. Second is the copyright issues that we all know. Different types of articles are published, videos are there. Ethically, we say that we have the right. Today, we are doing this podcast, we have the right. But anyone can make a mockery out of ethics. They can easily make a mockery. And if they're making a mockery, which you can't stop anyone, then certain things, certain rules have to be there as a safeguard net for creators, for individual authors, for anyone who's putting their work on the internet. Because internet is, I always say, it's like a jungle. People feel it's a paradise. I feel it's jungle. And in jungle, you never know when a snake comes, when can a lion come. So if this is a jungle, anything can happen anytime. Certain nets of safeguard with respect to rules and regulations are required.
It's interesting. I was having a podcast with a guest of mine. I won't name the guest, a very sweet person. He quoted a line and he said that I've heard this somewhere. I just looked at him and said, this is from my podcast. This is exactly what I say, episode after episode. Oh, I guess I heard it from you. I let it pass by at that point. And now we are having this conversation. I'm just realizing, there is no control. I can say many things and I can probably assume that this is my proprietary content. But I guess there is nothing I can do about it. Right? And I think, as they say, we choose the leaders we get. So, it's like we have chosen this path of technology. And so we have to live with it. We just...
boon and bane both.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any way, Saakshar, and give me an honest answer, that we can combat the spread of misinformation and protect the integrity of information?
I personally feel the honest answer is not to concentrate upon the fact that can we stop it or not, because we can't stop it, but to identify. Deepfakes are being circulated, that's not in your hands. But to identify whether it's true or not, that is definitely in your hands.
Do we have the tools and resources to identify it?
There are a couple of softwares. There was this huge conference that was there some time back where top 20 tech companies in the world, Google, Meta, Amazon, they were there and they all realized that yes, deepfakes are a huge issue. And this year being the election year, right? A lot of countries had their different elections, including India. And we saw deepfakes was a huge problem there. Manipulating the voters' perception. And a lot of studies say that different countries that have had the results, deepfake has had a huge role to play in voters' perception.
Yeah.
Right? So in this regard, there are not so many ways, but yes, I personally have this framework, which I use it. And I call this as blue framework. So not the color blue. It's more about, that acronym BLUE, which stands for blurred background. So in today's time, see, again, just for the disclaimer, this framework is not exhaustive. You can't say, yaar, ye framework aa gaya, ab to bas mere ko sab aa gaya. Aisa nahi hai. Deepfake ki jaisi technology padegi, it will get more refined. You have to change things. But at least for the time being, B is for blurred background, which means deepfakes, whenever you have to spot So this is, for the layman terms, this framework is to just identify what is a true video and what is not. So blurred background means कि आप कोई भी deepfake video देखोगे पीछे आपको थोड़े background blurred मिलेंगे. There has to be a certain discrepancy. Number one is that. Number two is lighting inconsistencies. We are doing a podcast. There is a light upon us. We are talking. But if it's a deepfake, the light upon me and my background will differ. You will be able to differentiate कि यार यहाँ पे कुछ, there has been some alteration that is there. True. Number three is underrated expressions. What do I mean by that? Underrated expressions is whenever you see a deepfake, lips syncing is very important. In a deepfake, you won't find a lip syncing, which is matching. Expressions, body movement. Sometimes in deepfakes, you will find a robotic body movement, or it's speaking, like a robot. And E is expansive knowledge. You should know and what is obviously how these deepfakes work, basic knowledge, but more importantly, you should again and again confirm. Confirm the source. We believe WhatsApp University and whatever video we are getting. But if you're not confirming where is this source coming from, then at the end of the day, for example, there have been n number of cases. Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, they had their deepfakes a couple of months back where the so-called, they were promoting a betting app. And that betting app actually gained attention because of this. Yesterday only, we have this, Anant Ambani's wedding is happening. Anant Ambani's deepfake, which is quite realistic. If I am a layman, I don't know anything about deepfake, I'll believe that video. Anant Ambani is promoting an app. He's saying, download this app. Let's celebrate. मेरी शादी का जश्न मनाते हैं. आपको मैं 50,000 रुपए दूंगा. And that app, I was just seeing that app was getting attention. So many people are, just downloading it. But can you confirm the source? If you go on the internet, if you see, can you see? And even if it's not just the source, apply some common sense. For example, if I talk about Sachin Tendulkar, and if you see Sachin Tendulkar doing endorsements for betting apps, alcohol, you'll see the track record. You'll say, boss, ये तो करता नहीं है. आज ऐसा क्या हो गया जो एकदम से ये U-turn मार रहा है. So if you apply this blue framework, which is very simple, it's anyone can apply. If you can just apply all these things, because somewhere the background might not be blurred, somewhere the lighting might not be inconsistent, but if you see all these checks and balances,
blocks,
then definitely you can identify what's a deepfake and what is a real video.
All right, let's come to legal remedies. What legal frameworks exist to address the misuse of deepfakes?
In today's times, there is this thing called IT rules. What are IT rules? IT rules are basically addressing to these, in legal terms, we call this term as intermediaries, service providers that are there, right? So these service providers, the social media, platforms that are there. So right now, whatever grievance that you have, whether it's there has been some hacking, some sexually explicit content has been, it's been sharing on social media, you can contact these intermediaries. And within a couple of days, they will revert back. But yet again, the process is such that that letter, I personally believe that whatever mail you're sending, it should be legally verified. Because that creates a lot of importance. It has a lot of regulations. We have Section 43 in the IT Act, which gives us a huge list of things, if this goes wrong, like for example, if your system is hacked, your data is being altered, some virus has been transmitted, your computer systems have been damaged, there are some points that are given. If any of these things happens, then Section 43 will apply. So these are certain remedies that we have, but yet again, not any direct remedies at the moment.
The elephant in the room. AI and cybercrime.
I personally feel it's a love story, in fact.
How is AI being used in cybercrime, and what are the ethical challenges associated with this?
AI is, we tend to forget this fact that, things like these generative AI models, whether it's Google Bard, it's ChatGPT, if they are making our life simpler, they can make life simpler for cyber criminals as well. I mean, in coding, if you ask a coder today, 70% of job is done by these generative AI models. 30% is your own input. It saves your time. So cyber criminals are also, they're leveraging this technology. Unfortunately, as I said, voice cloning and deepfakes, these are the two main gangsters at the moment in AI crimes. And the interesting part is these are not new. These two things used to exist 5-7 years back as well. But the quality was such that people never used to pay a lot of attention to it. Thanks to AI, the quality of these deepfakes and voice cloning is getting prominence. They are getting enhanced. That's where the problem is coming up.
Especially in the space I am in, now that 35 episodes are out, my voice is out there. Somebody wants to have a beef with me, they can use the. They
Easily.
can.
I just need, if I want to misuse your voice, I just need a 5 to 7 minutes voice sample of you.
Don't scare me. Don't scare me. What measures can be taken to prevent and mitigate the impact of AI-driven cybercrime?
Two things. Number one is going at the ground level, capacity building. As I said, education in cybercrime is very important at the ground level. If we talk about our country, any country, as a matter of
Do you
fact,
think it should happen from school itself?
not just schools, villages I'm talking about, not even schools. Schools is still a level above villages. Village at such a ground level. I mean, but I'll be very much honest, even if we are concentrating on schools, these are children. Half of the time they understand, half of the time they don't understand. And the real, if you want to see any country, it's not in schools. It's at, the rural households at the ground level. Because that's where the concept of cyber, crime villages is coming up. That's where it becomes even more important to educate these guys as to what is wrong and what is right. But half of them don't even know whether this is right or wrong. Right? Schools is obviously, that goes without saying. You should have gone out those days where you could have, those half an hour capacity building programs and you would have said it's okay. I personally believe a proper subject is required just to educate people that this is wrong. Because if you're getting cases in schools now, I think it's high time to bring certain regulations, certain sessions where people understand, students understand that this is wrong. Number one. Number two, how to mitigate them, right? Because today it's deepfakes and voice cloning. I'm 100% sure tomorrow it will be something else.
Yeah.
Things are coming up, and I always give this simple maths to everyone. We have 24 hours, right? You have 24 hours, you do 10 number of things in that. Work, family, your own, leisure activities and whatnot. You're divided. What is the cyber criminal doing? 24 hours just concentrating on one problem, which is how can I manipulate the current technology, or where can I find the gaps and lacunas in the present ecosystem? And if you do the maths and if you have the compound effect in hand, you'll see that gap will increase. And if that gap is increasing, that's where cyber criminals are always, 2 to 3 steps ahead of us.
How can legal systems adapt to effectively combat AI-powered cyber threats?
Cyber auditing for sure. If you are able to audit, and I'm not saying an audit every day, it's not a joke, but at least a 6 monthly audit is required. So that's the minimum. That what can I ask? If you have a 6 monthly audit, you are at least able to see, okay, this is our law. These are the things that have changed in the next 6 months. What can we do to adapt it? Because if you are able to adapt it, still you are at par. But if you don't have, things like deepfakes, AI, specifically in your law, because see, indirectly as lawyers, we can go. But I always believe a direct regulation is always a must.
True.
Today, there were data protection cases beforehand as well. But today, with the coming of the DPDP Act, it becomes easier for the individual, for the client, for the lawyer, for the judge, and for the society to address these issues properly.
And what role do international cooperation and collaboration play in addressing these challenges?
They play a pivotal role, because if you have an international collaboration, since AI is a global problem, if you have international collaboration, you have certain principles in place. These are guiding torch bearers for you. These can come, अगर आपके पास 4 से 5 principles हैं global level पे, तो आप you can help people, right? I mean, it can be a guiding force for countries. कितनी बार होता है कि forget the law. People, as a layman, they don't understand what is right, what is wrong. But there's no one to guide, right? We are having this podcast, certain capacity buildings are there. But if someone takes a global action at that level, that becomes a huge this thing for everyone. They know, यार ये standard है. आज हम tech industry में ISO 27100, this and that. That is a standard, which means if you have processes in hand, this is a standard that you have to beat and you have to comply to.
True.
अगर आपके पास standard global level पे है, then you're able to create examples and you're able to educate people at ground level as well.
Is there some work going on?
Yes, definitely. A couple of months back, United Nations had come up with this, new agenda that they have to come up with these new laws on criminalization of AI. Because a lot of places the question is, what is AI in the legal system?
True.
The legality of AI.
Yeah.
And addressing these crimes. So again, because United Nations is a global body, it has the power to actually, address these issues and come up with these global principles. That's one. Second, a lot of countries, a lot of, country-wise entrepreneurship meetings are also happening, where meetups, where they're actually discussing about these things. As I gave the example, some time back when top 20 tech companies they met, they realized that yes, deepfakes is a huge problem. They're happening at every social media. Therefore, watermarks is one such way where we can stop this thing. But again, watermarks is not a permanent solution.
True.
It's a temporary solution. You can do that. Yes, it's a good step to take forward, but we should not be complacent enough. We need much more bigger actions than that.
Okay, Saakshar, so let's come to Metaverse and AI and ethics in the virtual world. The digital identity and autonomy. What are the ethical considerations surrounding digital identity and autonomy in the Metaverse?
Definitely, and thank you for addressing Metaverse. Why? Because technology changes every time. In 2022, Metaverse was the buzzword in town. Suddenly AI came in, and now Metaverse has taken a backseat. Work is happening in Metaverse, but yes, I can't compare it with AI because AI is on a different level altogether.
True.
When we talk about ethics in Metaverse, a lot of things are required. Why? Because I'll give you an example. Sometime back, in fact, in 2022, a woman in UK, she just entered the virtual space, right, for 7 to 10 minutes, and her avatar was raped online. Now, a lot of people thinking, boss, वो तो यार अपने बैठी है रूम में, उसको तो कुछ नहीं है, उसके avatar क्या तो हुआ है. I put another question to that. When in social media, we have this concept called cyberbullying. जब आप जिसको हम बोलते हैं troll होते हो, then why is trolling such a huge issue? I mean, you are sitting, right? आपको physically तो कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा, but that mental thing is there. So that's similar, it's similar to what it is happening. If today we are talking about Metaverse, it's not a game. Slowly and gradually in the future, when it will take place, you have your own, it's a different dimension altogether. When we talk about things like, Google was also, I don't know right now if they're working or not, but they were working on a meta, a virtual Google Meet type of space that instead of a laptop, you can use those headsets, virtual reality sets, and you can you can be in the virtual reality where you can meet people and stuff. There, see, as human beings, we have this tendency to adapt to things and to get attached to things. Today, if you ask a Gen Z and Gen Alpha, likes matter. It's just likes
only matter.
Likes only matter. And if you see, if I have to put hardcore logic, what are these likes? Nothing. In real life, people are giving you no likes. It's just on social media. The same goes on Metaverse. If you're being raped online, that becomes a huge issue. What are these ethics? Are there any rules and regulations in place? Dubai, they were, UAE, they were working extensively on, all these regulations. And why? Because they want to see, they are making a smart city where they want to be the face of, the new developments, whether it's AI, whether it's Metaverse. In fact, Bangalore airport, it has its own, virtual reality room there as well. So different developments are taking place. But coming to the question, ethics are required. Who has how much right to behave online or not? And I personally feel you have to mirror the real world. Same regulation should be there in the digital space as well. Because let me tell you one thing. If tomorrow you have today we have ID cards for our offices, right? Tomorrow we'll have digital identities. Going to the office virtually. But if someone hacks into that and your virtual existence goes for a 6, then who's liable? Then what's happening? These are certain questions which might sound a bit kiddish at the moment, but if you give a deep thought to it, you will feel that yes, there is a need to address them.
In fact, the moment you said it, set me thinking that the same punishment should apply even to the virtual world. Bullying in general, to me, bullying should be considered a hate crime. Right?
It's true.
I feel so. So one of my favorite television shows is Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit. They had a case back in 2011 or 12 in one of the episodes, 12 years back, where a man had kidnapped a woman virtually in a virtual home, and I don't know if we can retain this in the podcast episode, but the fact of the matter is he bought a virtual home, and the police were able to track him through that virtual world. I don't think in 2011 or 12 it even happened. This is my biggest concern today, that some of the things we have seen decades back are actually happening. Right? It's scary.
It definitely is, and somewhere there are these theories that human mind, subconscious brain is so strong that if you see somewhere or the other, we have actually portrayed the future trends
Yeah.
before that.
Our mind is doing it. Sometimes do you realize, I mean, I'm just off the cuff, like you are thinking about something or you're and you open your Instagram or your Facebook, this thing pops up. I sometimes feel they do mind reading, man. I mean, it's really scary. It truly is. Or I'm just talking to my friend sitting here and maybe the handheld device actually listened to my conversations.
There is a reason why they are called as smart devices.
Yeah.
They're smart.
Can we regulate virtual spaces?
Yes, we can.
Mhm.
Definitely can.
What are the legal and ethical frameworks that are needed to govern behavior and interactions in the metaverse? And I think this is very important.
It's very important, and as I said, the best example is our real life, real life laws. Why? Because see, in virtual space, if you're talking about just replicating the whole, you're having a virtual earth, so the rules should be same, right? If you are there, just take an example of a game. In game, you can do anything, anything.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Imagine a game. It's not a game, but imagine a virtual reality which impacts your real life as well. There, you have to see things. You're right. And if you have to take inspiration, take from the current laws. At least that can be a guiding force, right? If you're
Do we have that law in India?
No, we don't. And there is a very, I think it goes without saying, but Metaverse was gaining heat. Somewhere the work happened, but we had a huge, now we have AI. That becomes an even more important topic. Why? Because Metaverse is not impacting everything. AI is. So now a bigger, the elephant in the room is AI, not Metaverse.
And that's really sad. So you're saying that we don't even have any laws against cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying, the good part is that in IT Act, there has been, there are a lot of, as I said, Section 43, as I mentioned, there are a lot of nuances which can cover cyberbullying, and not just Section 43. There are different, we have these different precedents as well, where it says that yes, if you are, and see, cyberbullying can be of different types, right? If someone is bullying you online, if someone is is sending sexually explicit content and everything. So these laws are covered. Cyberbullying guidelines have been there. In fact, I would like to say cyberbullying is one of those topics which have actually been, there has been work done. And if not just law, I personally believe more importantly, capacity building with respect to in corporates, with respect to schools, colleges. People are aware what is cyberbullying. And that's a very big achievement.
LGBTQI community, kids who are struggling with their identity, they get bullied all the time. And I think in the US they have laws. I don't know how far they are successful because it continues to happen. Do you think our country, are we working towards anything for this?
We definitely are. You mentioned about LGBTQ community, and fortunately in India also we are gaining, the importance. We are seeing that why, recognizing and respecting this community is very important. And it's not about giving undue importance or giving overrated importance. It's just we are all same at the end of the day. We are human beings.
In a free society, right?
Free society,
freedom is equal for everyone.
Yeah. So don't make special laws for them. Yes. Initially, where people have resistance towards them, a lot of people do. There are laws supporting them. There are company policies which are working in their favor. It is required. If someone tells me, why are you giving them undue importance? Initially, it is required. Because initially people have that friction. Once that friction phase is gone, then definitely you can have equal laws and everything at place. But yes, recognize now, since for the past 2 to 3 years, people are recognizing, people are appreciating. I mean, we in India, we openly celebrate Pride Day, Pride Month and all.
It started.
So at least that's a good start.
And when there are acts which happen against LGBTQ community in the US is designated as a hate crime. I hope we have the same here too.
We definitely are working upon it for sure. Yeah. I would not say that we are lagging behind.
Okay. How can we address, Saakshar, issues of consent, harassment, and other ethical concerns in virtual spaces?
Number one is definitely this question is very important because consent and harassment is these are the topmost pivotal points required. Why? Because tomorrow, if virtual space is legalized, is there in the society, you should have consent at least before doing anything. Consent is that goes without saying on the online space. That's one. Second is respecting the other person on the other. As I said again and again, just take an example of real world. What will you do and what will you not do in the real world? The same goes in the online space. But the example that I gave you, the lady who was raped in the virtual space. My thing is, she was just there for 5 to 7 minutes. That's the alarming thing that I'm talking about. Yes, rape is a heinous crime. That's one. But look at the frequency. Yes. Look at the time, 5 to 7 minutes. Why? Because that Mr. X would have thought that this is an online space. I am free. I can do anything.
AI in the metaverse. So let's look at integration and interaction. How will AI be integrated into the metaverse, and what ethical challenges does this pose?
Well, number one, these two technologies can quite complement each other for sure. Because if I just talk about AI and Gen AI, then definitely it can help us in our virtual reality. Sure. Creating. See, the problem with Metaverse was that it was trying to find its own identity. Where will it fit? Yeah. With the AI, it can actually fit. Yes. And it's not here to replace physical reality. No, it is here to complement again. Why to complement? I mean, we humans, we like to explore. We like to experiment. We like to get new things. So if 50 years down the line, someone would have talked about social media, what would have been your answer? You would have said, we meet physically. Why do we need social media? But today, social media is a need. Yeah. It is part of our lives. Same goes, the next level is Metaverse. Yeah. So definitely it is here. Right now, I would not say it is here. Obviously, it is not. See, in AI, 10 years down the line, the work had started. But a breakthrough moment came in which was the introduction of ChatGPT, where masses were included, right? AI seeped into the masses. That's where the official AI revolution started. The same thing will happen with the Metaverse. It was introduced, things will work up, some breakthrough innovation will happen, where it will seep in. It will touch upon the general public. That's where it will start. The official revolution of Metaverse will start. But if I talk about the privacy concerns, ethical concerns, then again, if opportunity is there, problems will also be there. What kind of problems? Well, if you see, data privacy is number one. If I am on virtual reality, I will be sharing data. Who's responsible for that data? And even if XYZ company is, what are the parameters they are putting forward? What are the laws for that? What kind of due diligences they are doing from their behalf? Because if tomorrow if their company is hacked, their data systems are hacked, my virtual presence goes for a 6. Then who's liable? And what are the ramifications? That's a huge question.
And what measures can be taken to ensure that AI in the metaverse is used ethically and responsibly?
Number one is realizing the fact that realizing that your identity is the importance of your identity is equivalent with respect to metaverse or in physical world. I mean, till the time you don't realize that both are equal, you should treat them equally. Laws will not come in place. Your mindset will not change. Number one. Number two, if you see that things अलग-अलग चीजें आएंगी metaverse में भी, different problems आज आप predict नहीं कर सकते हो, future में आएंगी. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is that आप ये देखो, metaverse, when it will start, right? All these physical problems that we see, for example, if you're driving a car accident takes place, physical injury तो नहीं हुई, virtual reality में injury हुई, क्या problem आ जाती है? क्या आप same punishments वहाँ रखोगे? तो again, but that thing कि straight away मैं तो copy कर लूँ अपना physical law, that is there in the real world, you can't do that. You have to see the nuances as well. Not every punishment can be so heinous, because if it's, let's say, if it's injury, okay, what kind of injury? Have you defined digital injury or not? No, you have not. First, because in a lot of the problem is you have to first define things. If you can't define, then it doesn't hold a place. In every act you must have seen, there are different definitions. There's a definition clause at the beginning. It gives you definition of every single thing that has been defined in the law. आप जब तक उसको define नहीं करोगे, तब तक आप उसको ये नहीं बोल सकते इसके punishment है, इसके laws हैं, इसके ये हैं, वो है. तो you have to first define it. So there's a huge process, but the most important point is, right now metaverse is not it's not gaining its pace.
Hmm.
But that's the time to be prepared.
Absolutely.
If you are getting prepared right now, I'm not saying bring up a law. I'm not saying that, but just getting prepared that yes, this is bound to happen. When it comes up, we'll come up with a law.
Interesting. All right. The Internet of Things and AI ethics. And whenever we talk about ethical use of IoT, the first thing which comes is data collection and the use. What are the ethical concerns related to data collection usage in IoT devices?
Consent. And that's unfortunately that's an implied consent. I mean, we have smart watches, smartphones, smart TV, smart AC. Everything is there. They're taking our content. They're listening every single thing. Not just your phone, your watch, your smart ACs, smart TV. They're listening to you. Now that's an implied consent. I mean,
But we don't have one.
yeah. If you don't have, see, it's a human tendency. We never read the terms and conditions.
Oh, we don't. And they are also smart enough to put them in such low key. Can there be no law to change that? Can we not, so that I can read the terms and conditions properly?
The catch is that there are so many terms and conditions. That's why it's a huge document. So they have their own say. They are like that. We have to mention everything. Na? That's why it becomes a comprehensive document. It's your duty to just see. And you can't escape with that. I mean, if you are using something, if today I am using a driverless car, it will be my responsibility, right? For every small thing, you can't go to Tesla and sue them that, okay, this has happened, that has happened. If you have bought something, now it is yours. It is your responsibility. And if you have to be, intelligent enough to understand what are the ramifications for it.
Yeah. True. How can we ensure that the IoT devices are used in ways that respect privacy and human rights?
With respect to Indian scenario, I think our Data Protection Act, which is coming up, will play a pivotal role here because
The law has been passed?
it has been passed, but has been given 6 months for the general public to comply with it. And this law is very much important. Why? Because this again it highlights all these important issues which we never discuss. Privacy of data. What's the duration? What's the consent? And are they transparent enough? What are the due diligences? When people will get educated, then only they'll be able to question. I am wearing this. What kind of data is this taking? Is this watch taking my healthcare data? And what value does healthcare data hold? Oh, it's a sensitive data, right? Sensitive data holds much more value, which means they have to have much more due diligences in place. Are they having those due diligences in place? So after the right to privacy judgment came in, that's where people realized that, okay, there is something known as right to privacy. So once a law comes in, people realize that, okay, there is something known as data protection as well.
It's also important for us to, that we should also be aware of what our rights are.
Exactly.
Let's look at security and safety. What are the security and safety implications of AI-powered IoT devices? And how can we address concerns through ethical design and regulation?
That's again a very good question. And with respect to IoT devices, see, if I'm a company who is manufacturing these IoT devices, I have certain responsibilities in place, certain due diligences that I have to do, which companies are doing. No doubt on that. But what I'm trying to say is these IoT devices are also, they are potential victims, right? If tomorrow hackers want to attack them, there is some lacuna. Every technology has it.
Yeah.
And hackers can manipulate it. And let's say your phone, right? Your phone has all your data. If tomorrow I'm a hacker, I'm manipulating that data, I'm taking all of that data, then who's responsible? Therefore, security measures are there. I'm not saying they're not there. They are there, but yes, again, constantly we have to update them.
Can we not hold these big tech companies responsible when these hacks happen?
We do. For example, if sometime back, I mean, every company today has been hacked at least once in their lifetime. So if they have been hacked, people have raised questions, but some, almost 50% of the time, especially when I talk about these big tech companies, they have maintained their due diligences, but no one can be 100% secure.
वो कहते हैं ना चोर के दाढ़ी में तिनका. When big tech companies talk about ethics, I really have my own. I'm seriously. Okay, this is my favorite part of the conversation: AI and smart cities. When we look at ethics in urban development, how can AI and IoT be used ethically in the development of smart cities?
See, it can definitely be used in the development of smart cities. We have a number of examples, right? Driverless technologies are there. If you have internet on, let's say, and this experiment is being done. If you have internet on we've seen, right, motion technologies where people are passing or people are stopping, these smart red lights that we have, that you don't have to operate them. They just tell you to stop, when to go, right? We have seen that. It's very normal. See, bringing a technology, integrating is fine. But the question, the statement that you said, ethically, that becomes important. Where do you define ethics? Because now coming to another important thing, we all know ethics are general, but somewhere they are not.
No,
I
they are
mean,
not.
honesty in one society can be a huge thing, while in the other society, it might not be a big deal. If you are not being honest, it's a huge dilemma in one place. But if you're not being honest, it's fine. That goes. So, where is the mid path? I mean, in some places, and that's where cultural differences will play a pivotal role.
Absolutely.
Because if at some places you have a smart city where there are certain high standards of ethics, on the other hand, you would not have. So these are some interesting times that we are living in. And smart cities is one concept where now, before AI, smart cities were happening, right? People were working upon it, but now since AI has come in, it will seep in, right? People will use it to break up smart cities, and not just AI. Upcoming technologies like 3D printing as well, they will also be used to make a smart city. But ethically, I'm not sure. Like, where exactly is the line? A common line. A line is there everywhere, but a common line, that's the question.
This is an important question, and this is a conversation we are having every day, not just between us, but I think around the globe. What are the frameworks that are needed, Saakshar, to ensure that smart cities are inclusive, equitable, and sustainable?
Well, when I talk about frameworks, so it's not just, you asked the question with respect to smart city. I have a framework. This is my own framework, which I can, and this framework can be used by when you talk about smart cities, when you talk about how to mitigate these cyber crimes, when you talk about future opportunities. So this framework, I call it as CAP framework, not the cap. It's KAP. When it's again an acronym which stands for, K stands for knowledge, A stands for adaptability, and P stands for predictability. By knowledge, you should have the knowledge, first of all, obviously, whether you're dealing in smart cities. If you're not competent enough to understand how these things will work, these technologies. I mean, if we talk about smart cities today, but my question is our construction space ready? Are they competent enough with these technologies? Are they competent to understand these technologies and to apply these technologies? I don't think we are, number one. We're not fully competent. We can't use 3D printing today just like that. I'm sure 70% of people don't even know what is 3D printing. So one is knowledge. And if I'm a student, I want to, I'm seeing cyber crimes or I'm seeing my future. Without knowledge, that's the first step you should have. At least have the knowledge. Where am I standing? And what is happening around me? Second is adaptability. You have to adapt yourself. That is more like a mindset, this thing, rather than a skill-based issue. You should adapt yourself that, okay, times are changing. And we have to see, the coming times, these are times for learning and unlearning. Till now, we were in this habit that we should learn a skill. Now this will go for 10 years, 15 years. Because, for example, coding, right? 10 years, the trend started, all the parents, they started to, bring their children to these coding classes. Coding is a skill. Coding was the first skill that every parent wants their child should learn. Where is coding today? It's not gaining prominence. But now, coming to the fact that when I said learning and unlearning, a recent example is prompt command engineering. What is that? So generally, till last year, people used to think that prompt command engineering basically means that knowing the right question to ask to ChatGPT, or not just ChatGPT, any generative AI model.
Right.
The better आप जितने अच्छे तरीके से पूछोगे उतना अच्छा आउटपुट आपको देगा. That is prompt command engineering. But now it is redundant. It's gone. People used to think last year that yahi future hai, ab ye future nahi hai. Kyun nahi hai? Because AI companies, they are now integrating right prompts in their
True,
this thing. So
true.
there is no need for the prompt command engineering. So that's A is adaptability, P is predictability. Now by predictability, I don't mean that you should be an astrologer, predict future. No. By P, if you have the knowledge, if you are ready to adapt, you definitely see some trends happening.
Yeah.
That's where you can predict the future.
And that's why data plays a very important role, right? The final one, and I think you will be able to relate to this a lot more, AI and public speaking. Communication, right? Do you think AI can be used to enhance public speaking and communication skills?
Indirectly, yes. How? If someone says, like for example, if I use ChatGPT, I use AI to give me essential feedbacks, because see, all as a speaker, as a person, you might you ask feedback from your parents, your family, your friends, max to max. People will not come there to give you a feedback. But the good part is that's why you leverage technology. I trained ChatGPT on being the best public speaking mentor. I trained upon different data, giving data from different public speaking mentors in real life. Now I ask him, now okay, this is my this is my talk, this is my TEDx talk. What is the feedback? And it gives me some actually valuable suggestions which are practically implemented as well. That's one. Not directly, I said indirectly, not directly. Why? If you ask me that, okay, if someone can make a hologram of me and they can make a deepfake of me and I'm interacting with people, no. Human beings are smart enough to understand what is authentic communication and what is not.
Absolutely not. And what are the ethical considerations that should be taken into account when you are using AI in public speaking coaching?
Well, number one is for sure, you have to see that you are not circulating your client's data everywhere. People do it. It's not just in public speaking, but generally also. If you are asking a problem to ChatGPT, that's fine. But you can use Mr. X, Mr. Y to give data, real life data. And people make that mistake. I've seen a lot of people, if I'm a CA, and that's confidential data. I'm giving all that information with that person's name. And let me tell you, boss, ChatGPT and somewhere this data is being stored, na?
Right.
So that data privacy is gone. Number one, you have to be aware of that. Number two, don't trust blindly. If you are, again, it is complimenting you. As a complimenting means it is giving you a suggestion. Take it as a suggestion machine, not as an authority. Once you take it as an authority, you blindly trust it. When you know that this is just a suggestion, which means you have the power to think, to analyze, and to counter question. So that becomes very important.
Okay. Let's look at the future of communication. How do you envision the future of communication with integration of AI technologies?
Well, it definitely has a bright future ahead. Leaving aside the negative part that a lot of copyright issues and all will be there, IPR issues in short. But if I talk about the bright side, yes, if you are able to leverage it, lots and lots of content, which can be, see, I have this is my personal opinion. I personally believe if you want to, if you want to grab knowledge on a certain subject, and if there are, let's say, 10 books, there are only 2 books or 3 books max, which are, the mother books for that. I mean, if we talk about, let's say, financial knowledge, right? There are n number of books, but still you have those 2 to 3 books that you always recommend. Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and all. I personally believe those books need your full attention. But somewhere when you feel that, this book is of 400 pages and this just talks about 3 ideas and I can just do that in one summary, you can leverage technology. I do that. If I want to grab knowledge, I can't create 48 hours. I have 24 hours. So just to save time, I do this a lot. Giving time, full attention to those things which are required. If there is an important article, I have to read it. I can't escape it. But if there are a lot of things where I know just bits and pieces of knowledge are there, but the time will be consumed is huge, I find out what is the ROI of that. Then I use technology to squeeze that, give me a short summary so that I can understand what was the exact idea.
And once again, what ethical challenges might arise and how can we address them?
IPR issues for sure. Number one. Number two is, tarnishing people's reputation. Your online identity can be at stake. That is again an ethical issue. If people are, and that's where bullying also comes in. All these aspects like bullying, hacking, these comes in to tarnish your online identity. And the third thing is, it's, when new opportunities are coming up, where is the ethical line that you draw in?
Yes.
I mean, when you are coming up with these new things, for example, if today someone is using, okay, I'll give you another example. If today OpenAI, I gave the example of Scarlett Johansson, right? She sued OpenAI. If OpenAI is saying that, oh, what wrong have I done? I mean, I'm just using it for a good cause. I'm not tarnishing a reputation. OpenAI has got a point there. If they argue on that, they are not arguing. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. But they have to understand, clarity is very important with respect to if you are incorporating a new technology, what are the do's, what are the don'ts? Because sometimes what we think are the do's might not be the do's. They can also be don't. I mean, IPR, it's not, you can't compare an IPR issue with a murder issue, but IPR is still, infringing someone's IPR is still wrong.
True.
So understanding those dynamics with the new technologies, because we talked about AI, the future is super intelligence. Now coming up with super intelligence, new challenges will be there. So you have to see what exactly are the do's and don'ts you are actually applying into your field.
Wonderful. So we come to the end of the first segment, What Matters. So, Saakshar, we come to the second segment, What's Brewing. And What's Brewing is about the future. And when we talk about AI ethics, we talk about legislation, right? We have to anticipate certain legal needs. My question to you should be, how are the legal systems evolving to keep pace with the rapid development of AI technologies?
The good part is that we are taking steps in a positive direction. I mean, there are different countries which are coming up with their own laws. And if they're not coming up with their own laws, at least the discussion phase has started to happen. And if I talk about countries like which have taken the first step, is China. They came up with their own last year, 15th August. They came up with their own AI law. European Union just came in. US now is coming up with different rules and regulations. India now is talking about a new law on AI. So the fact of the matter is, the good part is that we are taking proactive actions, and there are different, global actions are also being taken. For example, there was this in UK, there was this Bletchley Declaration where top countries, the heads of top countries, they came in, they signed this declaration.
Has India signed too?
Yeah. India has also signed that. India, China, USA, you just name the major countries, they have done that. And they have, what was the purpose of this was that regulation is important, but at the same time, growth is important. So how to strike the balance between growth and regulation?
Okay. What are the key areas that you see where future legislation will be necessary to address AI ethics?
Number one is, I think, cybersecurity issues for sure, because cybersecurity issues are evergreen. Right now also we are facing problems. Tomorrow when AI is incorporated into that, different problems will arise. So number one, we have to pay close attention to cybersecurity. Number two is AI in different industries. I mean, you can't make a law for every industry, but I personally feel you can have a basic, understanding all these industries, what is the common factor, come up with a law which addresses AI and its legalities. Coming up with a massive legislation is much more important, because if you aim for coming up with a law for every industry, that is very difficult. But rules and regulations, there are a lot of industry-based regulations that are also there. It's not state level; it's industry level. That's where industry bodies are also governed with those rules. That is very important. That's second. Third is somewhere understanding that yes, new technologies which are upcoming, IoT is growing, super intelligence is coming. So if you are talking about these technologies, where are we starting to getting prepared? That's the question that we have to ask.
Okay, are we starting to get prepared? Let's look at this from a global perspective, Saakshar. How are different countries approaching the regulation of AI with respect to emerging technologies?
The good part is that almost everyone, if I talk about nation states, they are on the same page. That yes, regulations is required, because see, the pain point is same, right? It's a global problem. Everyone is facing the same issue. So they understand that yes, there are regulations are required. They are taking proactive actions, but I think somewhere or the other, see, the direction is fine. We have taken the steps, that is also fine. But the times that we are living in, I feel we need a little more speed than this. We should bring much more proactive actions and legislations in this regard.
And what can be the lessons that can be learned from the comparative study of AI legislation across different legal systems?
That's again a wonderful question, because see, the major purpose of any law is that you take inspiration from others who have done that before you. You don't copy that. You take inspiration and you see your own your cultural diversity, your cultural background, your societal thinking, and you just put it in there. Our Indian constitution is the beautiful example of that. I mean, if you look at our Indian constitution, it has been inspired by so many constitutions, but looking at the Indian scenario, it has been beautifully adapted to it. Therefore, yes, countries are taking inspiration from each other, but I personally feel if it's a global problem, coming up with some global principles is required so that they can be a guiding force for every other country to make laws.
Because I think if there's anything that COVID has taught us is
Global collaboration
Yes.
is everything.
everything. We were discussing just before the podcast started that war are going to be fought at the cyber level. They're not going to be on the land, air. What do you feel? How do you see AI ethics legislations evolving over the next decade?
Well, if I talk about cyber warfare, then just for the reference, there are many movies. For example, I was just watching this movie a couple of months back, Die Hard 4. So it was on cyber warfare, where hacking is, and we have seen real life examples where hacking has been done on water plants, on electricity stations. Why? Just to create huge nuisance, right, for the other state. And that's huge, right? I mean, we have seen cases in Mumbai and Bangalore where fake news have resulted in causing huge problems for us. Delhi also, recently we saw this example where fake emails was, it went to 50 plus schools that a bomb is there in your school, and 50 schools had to evacuate themselves for a week. Proper thorough research was there, but at the end they realized that it was a hoax mail. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, you're right, cyber warfare is there, but coming up with the future, see, the question, I personally believe it should not be that what can come, how much can we do? I mean, things will come in. AI is today here. We never imagined that in 1.5 years AI will make such a huge jump, but it is here. But what are we doing? I personally believe that whatever things are coming up, we should just take proactive actions. Even if that's in if it's not massive, but realizing the importance that those complacent times are gone, that we can just sit and we can wait, and after 5 years we can come up with the legislation. No, after 1 year something new will come up. That burden will increase.
And it is actually what do I say? It's actually seeping into the social fabric of our society.
That's true.
In ways we can't imagine.
Right.
And I often ask myself, as new technologies come in, and I want to ask you this question as a final thought, where do we draw the moral compass?
See, if we talk about morality, I personally believe that culturally, if you go, you will find it very difficult, because culturally, morals, they differ, right? But globally, there are certain morals at a certain level. I mean, for example, if I talk about honesty, I don't think there is any country in the world which will say be dishonest. Everyone will say be honest, but there are levels. Some people will say be honest till here. Some people might say they require honesty standards to be here. But honesty is there. It comes under the bracket of honesty. So realizing these core principles, which is, I don't think it's rocket science. It resonates. These principles resonate with the humanity. If you understand these principles, and at a global level, you're coming up with rules, not laws, rules. If you're coming up with certain rules, which are practical, they can be torchbearers. As it said, as I gave you the example of Constitution. Constitution is, it's standing on certain pillars, right? Equality, fraternity, and everything, freedom. These principles are required. That's where, because I am giving the metaphor of Constitution. Why? Because our Constitution is, there are considering a country like India, diverse people, diverse problems, diverse opportunities, diverse changes. At that time, for every single thing, Constitution was made way back. Till now also it's quite prevalent. Why? Because it's standing on core principles. It's not standing on some, transient factors. These are timeless principles. And if at the global level, we are able to identify timeless principles which resonate with humanity, which respect our ethics, then definitely, irrespective of whatever problem comes in, we will be able to cater to it.
Very, very well said. So, Saakshar, we come to the final segment of our podcast. We call it the rapid fire round, unlike no other rapid fires. And we have mini segments within this segment. Let's begin with this or that, the first segment in this. AI or human intuition?
Human intuition.
And the reason being?
Human intuition, it's evergreen.
Yeah. Deep fakes, ban or regulate?
Regulate. You can't ban deepfakes. It's not in your control. Regulation is in your control.
Physical courtrooms or virtual hearings?
This is a tough one. I think physical courtrooms. Because you get the feel that you are in a court.
Okay. Virtual reality or augmented reality?
Virtual reality. I think there's a lot of scope in virtual reality. Personally, I have a bias towards virtual reality, so yeah.
IoT or blockchain?
IoT. Because it has a lot of problems, but with that problem comes different opportunities. So a lot of opportunities in IoT space as well.
Book or e-reader?
I think both. I can't differentiate because I am not the kinds that I just want a physical book. I can do with both.
And I'm not asking this question by trying to stereotype you as a lawyer who has books, how they present.
Normal books as well. I like both of them. I mean, it depends upon if I have a book in hand, I'm good. If I have an iPad in hand or Kindle, that works with me. So I think both.
I have to tell you honestly, I've grown up as a reader. Last birthday I received a gift, which was the Kindle, and it's just lying in there as it is because the smell of the books, just holding it, it's just amazing. All right, we move to the next segment within Rapid Fire, one-word answers. One word to describe AI ethics.
Needed.
Okay. Biggest threat from AI.
Biggest threat from AI. Many, yaar.
One word.
Biggest threat from AI. Inevitable.
Favorite emerging technology.
Super intelligence.
A word that comes to mind when you think of the future.
Exciting.
Deepest ethical dilemma in AI.
The delicate balance between human beings and AI.
Not one word answer though. A word that describes your approach to law.
Flexible.
Favorite legal movie.
None.
I take it that you are not a fan of Harvey Specter.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, why is it that many of my lawyer friends and my best friends are lawyers? They say that that's just romanticizing law.
Yeah, it's just you're glorifying something which is not true. And that's where, people like me, I was also, before taking law, I watched these things like Suits and all, and I was inspired. But then you hit the ground reality and you feel that that's just a movie.
Harvey Specter is just a movie
Imaginary
character.
thing, yeah.
You don't have lawyers who don't lose cases at all, or who I know he does things which. Most exciting AI application.
ChatGPT.
A skill you are currently learning.
Problem solving.
Interesting. All right, we come to the third segment within the rapid fire. And these are, you can give long answers. You have to. We call them the thought-provoking segment. First question. What is the biggest misconception about AI?
That it's under our control. It's under human beings' control, but we forget this fact that AI is one such unique technology which has its own thinking capacity. And you can't, a person who, an entity which has its own thinking capacity and can be much more powerful than us, then I think it's very stupid to think that we can control it for the lifetime.
How can we ensure AI systems uphold human values?
I call this term as cyber auditing. So like normal auditing we do, cyber auditing is required with respect to laws, regulations, and AI systems as well. Why? Because technology is increasing, it's developing every single day. So, being at par with it, ethics are required. Ethics will also have to update, right? If you have 10 ethics in place, different problems will come which will require different ethics to come in place. So therefore you have to audit your systems, your regulations, your frameworks again and again.
What ethical frameworks should guide AI development?
That's a very simple answer, because whatever ethical frameworks we have in our day-to-day lives with respect to human beings, right? Morality, integrity, these terms are, quite, I know, monotonous, but at the same time, these things, if they are incorporated in AI systems, for example, when you're programming something, there has to be certain ethical standards to it, right? Ethical standards have to be there. Integrity principles have to be there. A small example to this is, if you use ChatGPT and if you say, okay, I want to make an atom bomb, please tell me this thing. So it will stop you for a certain while. That, okay, this is against my terms and conditions. This is against my policies. That is where an ethical standard is there. But unfortunately, somewhere or the other, people who know how to talk to ChatGPT, which is prompt command engineering, they know how to get things out. So still, we are not very much equipped with ethical standards.
That's interesting you say this. I was not aware of that. And I was always under the impression that I could write anything and I could get answers to it. What role do cultural differences play in shaping AI ethics?
That's another pivotal point. Why? Because AI is not a state problem, it's a global problem. And therefore, I personally believe that regulations should be at the global space. A few months back, we were at the United Nations conference where this issue was being discussed. And when I was representing India there, we had different stalwarts, different representatives had the same viewpoint, that since United Nations is one global body which has the power to set different, at least, principles at place, which everyone agrees to it, right? We all know that. So at least we can have certain rules and regulations. So at least guiding principles, so that with respect to those principles, every state, every nation can incorporate them in their respective laws, because laws will change with respect to your cultural differences are there. But those principles can be the basic foundation, and that's where we all can be on the same page.
How should legal systems evolve to address AI challenges?
Again, I think auditing is very much required in legal systems. We unfortunately have this, till now, we had this habit that yes, so we come up with the law and an amendment takes place after several years. I don't think we can afford that in today's times, because times are changing. Technology is moving at, it's not 2x, 10x, it's 20x at the moment. So regulations have to be at par with it. So if not, I can understand bringing up a law is not a joke. You need processes, you need different people at place, but at least regulations and certain capacity building activities can be done time to time.
And I think this is something which relates to you in many ways, because you are a prolific public speaker. What is the future of AI in public speaking and communication?
Well, with respect, not just with respect to public speaking, but with respect to every industry, AI, it's not black and white, it's gray. What I mean is that every industry, it's impacting in a positive manner, negative manner. We have, as human beings, it depends upon us, how will we leverage it. If you ask me with respect to public speaking, yes, there are different, if I say, even if it's ChatGPT 4, right, the paid version, there are different GPTs in that, which can be a public speaking trainer. So there you can leverage it. In fact, I've also done that. I've talked to that ChatGPT. I've given inputs and I've got some very valuable insights. For example, if I'm speaking in a podcast today, and if I ask ChatGPT what more could have been improved from my side, it gives you some valuable suggestions. That's for sure. But now coming to the downside, if I have to today talk about AI and I just rely on ChatGPT for my content, then there is this thing known as AI hallucination. So AI hallucination, it generally means that, whether any generative AI model, it has the job to take the output and give the input, right? Take the input and give the output to you. You are asking something, it has to give you an answer. And sometimes when it doesn't have the answer, right, in its database, it checks its database, and when the answer is not there, its job is to give the answer in a convincing manner. And it does that, right? But you can't anticipate, and you can't even see that whether that information is true or not. There have been different cases where it has just hallucinated stuff, things which never exist. It is speaking about those things. So if you blindly rely on AI for your content just to save time, then you might be in trouble.
Interesting. How do we balance AI innovations with privacy concerns?
First of all, no offense to anyone, but I feel data privacy is a huge joke in today's times. Why? Because it's not a joke because countries or regulations are not coming up, they're not taking activities. But as human beings, I ask everyone, do we really care about our data privacy? I don't think we do. I mean, we are the ones who, we spread our own information just like that. We distribute our data going here and there, whether it's in physical format, in digital format. We distribute our medical data, our banking records, our Aadhaar card, which has your biometrics. We do that every single day. And then after some time, if unfortunately a fraud occurs, we tell that, oh, we never shared our numbers with this X person. So you don't know wherever you're sharing your any kinds of details, your data, that is there in the ecosystem. You don't know where it is going, whether it's being sold, whether it's being hacked. So at the end of the day, there is no such thing known as data privacy. But yeah, coming back to your question, data, there obviously you have, at individual level, at state level, both things. It is a both way process. At individual level, you have to be very much aware, which I call it as cyber hygiene. You have to maintain a cyber hygiene. You can't just distribute data like laddus. Take my data here and there. If you're in normal cases, we have seen in different in food outlets, right? They ask you for your phone number. You don't even ask. You just give your phone number just like that. And even if you ask, they say that you'll get some discounts and you're very much happy that, okay, but you don't realize that you are distributing your data. You are being data careless. So number one, don't be data careless. Number two, with respect to state, now with ChatGPT coming up, it has also made a mockery of your data privacy, right? It has taken data throughout the internet, it has not taken consent from every single person. Whether it's a published book, a podcast, a blog, or whatever it is. So therefore, certain regulations are also required. And this balance of getting timely regulations and maintaining cyber hygiene, that's the key to maintain a balance of data privacy in this age of AI.
When it comes to regulations, and we all know how the system works. You've got to go through different, I believe the law needs to be passed in both houses and stuff like that. What is it that can be done to expedite that process of getting regulations in place?
In the English? Chalega na? So, मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ that we have heard this saying, right, from Bhagavad Gita. कर्म करे जाओ, फल की इच्छा मत करो. Do your, what is in your hands, you concentrate on that. Don't concentrate on what's not in your hands. If I talk about law, there is a certain procedure which has been made from several years. And this is the same procedure in every country. It requires that. Why? Because whenever you are bringing up a law, there has to be scrutiny. There has to be a filter. And that filter comes up with both these houses. So that process is there. You can't skip that process. You can't alter that process. But yes, proactive actions is one thing which you can take. After our IT Act, which is there today, right? When 2611 happened, within a week, things were passed in it. Within a week. Why? Because that was a priority at that time. Right. Because 2611 just happened. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are able to take proactive actions, then this process also never hinders in your path. But missing proactive actions at the right time, that's the key where I think we should concentrate upon.
Because, when we had COVID, the normal process of getting a vaccine done takes years. We did it. And I think this needs to be taken seriously. What measures can be taken to prevent AI-driven cybercrimes?
Well, there are a lot of measures at different levels, as I said. At individual level, definitely there are certain points you have to keep in mind. Number one is your GK. Right? Okay, I'll give you an example. This will be more interesting for the viewers as well. So recently I did this case where there is this father, right? He lives in North India. Okay. And his routine is that he drops and picks up his daughter from the school bus stand. The daughter is in 4th standard. One fine day, now listen to this very carefully, every single thing. One fine day when the father is in a very important meeting, he gets a call. He cuts it 1 time, 2 times. 3rd time when he's getting a call, he picks it up. And the call is from kidnappers. They say that your daughter has been kidnapped. And obviously the father, the natural reaction is that he said that please make me talk to my daughter. For 3 to 4 minutes, he was talking to his daughter. After the 4th minute, and I think 3 to 4 minutes is good enough for a father to recognize whether it's his daughter on the other hand or not. He recognized that yes, this is my daughter. He tried to negotiate, but that never worked. So unfortunately, he had to send 15 lakh rupees to the kidnappers. Now the kidnappers said they sent him a random location. They said, please, you come here and take your daughter. On his way back, he thought, being a good citizen, I should inform the school principal that these kind of activities are happening so that everyone is safe. When he called the school principal, he was in shock. Why? Because the school principal said, sir, I've just met your daughter 5 minutes back. How is it possible? And he was fighting with the school principal. No, this is not possible. There is some discrepancy here and there. After 10 minutes, the school principal made him talk to his real daughter. And while talking to his real daughter, he was still in a state of dilemma. He was not able to identify whether this is the real daughter or that was the real daughter. What happened here? This is known as voice cloning. What is voice cloning in layman terms? Thanks to AI, obviously, we have these technologies where you can just take the voice of someone and it depends upon you that how you can manipulate that voice. You wanted to say X, you wanted to say Y. We have seen different videos on Instagram, right? The footballers are singing, politicians are singing songs. This is voice cloning. For that, we think that, okay, it's a joke, but we don't realize the kind of ramifications it can have. Now, why I give this example? Now I'll come to the points, what people can do, so that people can relate with this example. Number one, have your GK intact. What do I mean by GK? It doesn't matter now if you are from the IT sector or not. You need to have certain basic GK in place, what's happening around you. If you are exposed to internet, if you are using electronic devices, I think you, as a matter of duty, in fact, you should have. What exactly? If you don't know what's voice cloning, then 99% of the times you might be, you might be a victim of these kind of scams. So number one, know what's happening around you, what kind of scams are happening. Number two, I call this as, that we are entering in an age of don't trust, rethink. On internet, these days, it's very easy to create fake content. Now with the coming of deepfakes and voice cloning, it has become even more difficult to differentiate what's real and what's not. Because the quality of deepfakes and voice cloning is getting enhanced day by day, right? So you can't trust blindly whatever is being thrown at you from the internet. Recheck. Whatever you're getting, even if you're getting a call from the so-called bank, so-called police, so-called CBI, we have seen cases where people have got calls from so-called CBI. Think again. Will CBI really call me? And is this matter such a huge matter? Number one. Number two, know about the scams, as I said. Number three, which is the most important thing, is that keep calm. Now, this is the most underrated thing, and people feel, what does cyber crimes have to do with keep calm? See, I always say these hackers are excellent psychologists. They don't have hi-fi technologies to hack your systems and all. They play with your psychology. We human beings, when we are put in a panic situation, we behave in a fight or a flight response, right? So they leverage on that. But if you're keeping calm, if you have a cool head, you'll be able to make decisions properly. I mean, we have seen cases where, I'm sure you must be acquainted with this new scam where people are getting calls that this courier is in your name and we are getting there is some illegal material that has been found. So please come on a video call and we have to investigate you. And in 70% of those cases, people never even made a courier to someone. I mean, just imagine, even if I would have made a courier to you, I still would have, thought that, oh, I'm in trouble. मैंने courier ही नहीं भेजा है, कुछ करना ही मेरे को courier से है नहीं, फिर भी मेरे पे आ रहा है and I'm acting. I'm not acting, I'm reacting. So if you have these three things in mind, these are very basic, but if you can have these three things in mind, I think 50% of scams, you'll be safe from these kind of scams for sure.
Awesome. Biggest ethical concerns with deepfakes?
Number one ethical concern is, हिंदी में एक कहावत है, बंदर के हाथ में तलवार दे देना. What it simply means is that you're giving, whatever, let's for example, deepfakes, it's so damn powerful. Powerful in the sense, if you want to use it positively, you can use it in VFX, right? In Marvel movies and everything. But if I have to misuse it, there are n number of ways. Today, throughout the world, especially in Europe these days, I was reading this morning only, in UK, it has become such a huge mockery where every other, whether it's a news reporter, it's a celebrity, it's a, it's a politician, they're just, because these pictures are in public domain, right? You can just use it, and deepfake, deepfake softwares today are free on the internet. And even if they are not free, 1,500 rupees per month, which is not a big deal if I have to ruin someone's life. I mean, so there are a lot of things to it. So number one is having, having the light as to where exactly we are heading. In US, 2 months back, two kids from 8th standard, They never thought what is deepfake. They never knew what are the ramifications. They thought it's a game. They took the pictures of all their classmates and they morphed them. They made different deepfakes and circulated them in the school. Now, what I'm trying to say is, when kids today, they are exposed to the internet, you are at the end of the day putting something forward which these guys don't realize, and that can have huge ramifications. So number one, the most important ethical concern is the kind of usage that we have in today's times. That has to be definitely regulated.
All right, we reached the final segment of the rapid fire segment, the fun segment. Saakshar, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To control time.
Wish we all had that superpower. A historical figure you would like to have a conversation with about AI.
About AI, I think Albert Einstein.
Mm-hmm. Your favorite place to unwind in Delhi?
I think Delhi metros. That's a very
That
weird.
is not an answer I expected. With a special someone?
Okay, this is a different question.
The same question.
No, not in the Delhi metro. Might be in a good park.
No, you still haven't answered my question. Favorite place to unwind in Delhi?
Just jokes apart. I think any good restaurant. I don't have any specific this thing, but any good restaurant.
A legal case in history you wish you could have been a part of?
Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, because that is the mother case in our IT space. Right to privacy, basically, where it was.
A favorite quote about technology?
We always tend to underestimate technology, and it tends to surpass our expectations.
Okay. AI in entertainment, boon or bane?
Both.
One piece of advice for aspiring lawyers.
Don't overrate yourself, which we lawyers, obviously, we all do. Because in law colleges, we tend to, hear this. In movies also, we tend to see that lawyers are the king. Lawyers, honestly speaking, lawyers should be grateful to everyone, in fact. The judge decides the case. The clients give you the case. You're just the medium party who's representing a client. So don't overrate yourself.
One word to describe your passion for law.
Curiosity.
Awesome. And with that, we come to the end of the rapid fire segment. And you've done good.
Where's my hamper here?
We don't have hampers. We only have goodwill and love for you. Saakshar, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And I know we can go on and on because this is a long drawn conversation. I think for me, my personal takeaway is on one hand, we need technology for this human race to grow, to progress. And we also need to learn to draw the line. And I think the answer lies in balance. Thank you again for coming in. And I hope we will have more such conversations as the technology progresses.
Indeed.
And so that's it from our end for this episode on AI, ethics, and the way forward. Until next time, stay tuned, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. This podcast was recorded, edited, and processed at Metrol Studios in Noida. The producer is Santosh Kumar, and the associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The Between Us podcast uploads episode weekly, and we'll see you next time.